Hi everyone at Chorleywood Primary, my name's Simone and some of you may know me already. Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit as part of our Dream Big career sessions and we're going to talk about how jobs and careers can change over time. So when I was growing up, my grandparents were in that generation where a job was for life and people would enter a job and potentially stay in it until they retired. My dad's dad, Grandad as I called him, Arthur, he was known to others, worked as a printer. He started as an apprentice when he left school, and he worked on something called a letterpress machine, which was one of the first kind of printing machines. And he was promoted from there to foreman of that area. As printing technology moved forward, he moved off of those press printing machines and onto litho printing machines. Litho printing machines became the norm, and he then moved to become the paper warehouse manager, which was the next kind of roll up within that area. He worked for a company called Hazel, Watson and Viney, and he worked there for the majority of his career. So my mum's dad, Grampy, as we called him, Leslie to his friends, worked for the post office, and he worked there after World War II, and he started as a postman, and then he became an inspector in the sorting office, which is another type of job within the post office world. And he worked there for such a long time that he got the Imperial Service Medal. Now, this was a medal which is awarded on retirement to civil servants who'd completed at least 25 years of service. The Imperial Medal was affiliated to the Imperial Service Order, which was established by Edward VII in 1902. So very, very old service medal. So in my grandparents' generation, many people would train to be able to do a single career or a single job. And while they might do that job for maybe more than one company, that was their job for life. And so they would stay within that area for the whole of their career. If we fast forward to my dad, he became a printer like his father, doing an apprenticeship in both bookbinding and also in printing. And he went on to work on letterpress printing machines like his father, but also litho printing machines, and then expanded into working in the sales side of the business, so selling print work. He then went on to set up his own business using the skills that he developed as part of those different jobs that he'd done, and that business was called Print Services Limited. The business had both litho technology, so the litho printing machines, and then as technology moved forward, it also had digital printing machines. As the industry changed again, it meant that he had to move into a web-based business. So that's something that he continues to do today. Fast forward again to when I was growing up. I trained to become an accountant. So what's an accountant? Well, it's a person who's good with numbers and learns about how to look after money for people and for companies. So how did I go about doing that? I went to university, and then after university I went to work for one of the biggest accountancy firms in the world. Now, when my parents were growing up, that would have been a job for life. You would have stayed there until you retired. But times in the world of work change, and so the skills and the qualifications that I developed definitely were for life. So I did 3 years of exams and various different on-the-job training, and at the end of which I qualified. But there was a big accounting scandal in America, and it meant that the firm I worked for was taken over. So that seemed like a good time for me to then choose to do something different. So I took the skills and the experience that I developed when I did that job and went to work in a different industry. So where did I go? So I went to work for an investment bank. Now, what's an investment bank? It's basically just a fancy name for a bank that businesses use rather than people like you and me. So since then, I've had a few different jobs, and I still have a number of different roles that I do. Some I get paid for, and some I do voluntarily, and some I do for myself, and some I do for other companies. But in all of those different things, I use the skills and the knowledge that I picked up when I was at school, when I was at university, and when I was doing my professional exams, but also the things I've learned when I've been doing each of the jobs that I've done over the time that I've been working. And every job I do, I learn new skills and new things that I can take to the next thing I turn my hand to. So what's important in a job, and what are the things that we take to our jobs? So the skills that we have are one of the key things. The things that interest us is really important. The things that we value, so what do we find important? What we need out of a job, because that might change over time. And we take all these things that we've learned and the things that interest us and the things that we're good at, and we use them in whatever job that we choose to do. Now, it's quite interesting how jobs have changed over time. So the amount of time that we spend in an individual job will be different from, say, our parents' generation. I think there's some research that says that on average, if you were between the ages of 55 and 64, for example, you might have spent 10 years or more in each of the jobs that you've done. Whereas for younger people, say 25 to 35 type age groups, they might only spend 2 to 3 years in each of the jobs they do. So that changes as we kind of go through our careers. But we don't have a crystal ball to see into the future, so that could well change again. One thing is certain, even if we do the same job for many years, is that the way that we work and the things that are important to us will change over time. And that will have an impact on the things that we want out of a job and that we need out of a job. So being able to develop the skills to help us cope with change is really important. At the moment, we're seeing lots of change in the current global pandemic, making us work from home, think about the way we work, how we interact with each other, and we may find this experience changes the way that we go about work in the future. If we look back to our relatively recent history, there are whole industries of jobs that just don't exist anymore because technology has taken over and they've removed the need for the jobs. For example, computers have taken over the need for people working in large pools and typing pools where they would type up on typewriters letters, contracts and reports. We're also now seeing areas where we don't use fossil fuels as much. So we may see less mines, less miners and mining jobs, but we might see more investment and more jobs being created in the green sectors. So things to do with wind farms or solar farms or other different types of green energy. Message today is to keep developing those core skills. You'll be able to use them in whatever job or industry you choose to work in, as they're what we call transferable skills. And you're developing them in everything you do in school today. Can you remember what some of them might be? So can you remember what the skills are?
You mean the learner characteristics?
Yeah, and what are they?
Listener, enthusiastic, ambitious, aiming high, resilient, nurturing, engaged and respectful.
And I think there's a couple of others, aren't there?
Isn't that team player, leadership, presenting, problem solving and creativity?
You got it. We moved location, so from Birmingham to London, so that's one of the reasons that I changed jobs. Changing industry, so moving from accountancy into banking. And third one was probably to do with a better work-life balance when I wanted to start a family. So that's why I changed.
Why might people change their job?
They might want a pay rise, they might move companies for that reason. What other reasons can you think of?
Or they could get a promotion.
Yeah, they might get a promotion, go to a different job.
Or they could work for less hours and get the same amount of money.
Yeah, and sometimes it's quite sad, but sometimes we lose our job and therefore we might need to find a job somewhere else. Professional accountancy exam marker.
Knowledge.
Obviously accountancy rules and regulations.
Skill.
Working in a team.
Another one.
Corporate finance, consulting work.
Knowledge.
How to summarise and present information clearly.
Skill.
Listening to and learning from others.
Is that another one?
Next one is voluntary, so this is school governor or charity trustee.
Knowledge.
What's expected of leaders in charities and companies in education.
Skill.
Being ambitious and working hard.
Is that another one?
Educational governance consultant.
Knowledge.
What good school governance looks like and how to achieve it in practice.
Skill.
Presenting and sharing knowledge with others.
Is that another one?
Well, the next one develops quite a lot of skills. This is a homemaker or mother.
Knowledge.
How to run a home, and on the job, learning how to become a parent.
Skill.
Well, there's lots here. So, problem solving, staying positive, being adaptable, creative, and caring for others.
Is that all?
Yes, for now. So, first question, what did I have for breakfast this morning? So I had a orange juice and some cereal, cornflakes, and a banana. That's my breakfast today. Question 2, what was your favourite book as a child? I wasn't a big fan of reading when I was in primary school, but I do remember really enjoying reading the Worst Witch book series by John Murphy. What was your favourite subject at school? Maths, definitely. Maths was definitely my favourite. What did you want to be when you grew up, when you were in primary school? I don't think I really had any idea when I was in primary school. I think I just enjoyed the subjects and things I was doing. By the time I got to secondary school, I had a bit more of an idea, and I didn't necessarily want to go into anything specific, but would like to go into business was my thing. And what's the favourite part of my job? I think probably variety. In each of the jobs that I've done, I've tried to make sure that I do jobs that have lots of different parts to them. So they work with lots of different people, or they work with doing lots of different things on each different day. So I'd say variety has been my favourite part of all the jobs that I've done. What's the one piece of advice that I would share with my younger self? I think that happiness isn't a destination, it's a journey. So doing something that you really enjoy when you're working is important, because you'll spend quite a lot of time at work generally, so it's important to make sure that's something that you really enjoy doing, rather than something that you're doing just to pay the bills. What do you know about Chorleywood? So I have lived in Chorleywood for about the last 10 years. Both of my children have gone to Chorleywood Primary. One is at the time of filming currently in year 5, and my older child is finished Chorleywood and went on to secondary school. They're in year 7, and I am also a school governor at the moment at Chorleywood Primary. So that's the end of the questions, and that's all from me. But I'd just like to say one last thing, which is thank you for listening, and thank you for having me, and remember, all the children at Chorleywood Primary, to make sure that you dream big. Bye.